Today we're going to talk about hand drills, the different types and the different parts of the drill. Here's an impact driver. These are used primarily for driving screws. For these, in order to get the bit out, we take this sleeve and we slide that forward, and that allows this type of bit to go in and out. You're not going to be able to place a normal drill bit into this type of drill because that's not what it's designed for. This one has a forward and reverse on it. The easiest way to know what these are, I don't know if you can see these in the video, there is an arrow on them. This arrow is pointing towards the front. So if I push this button in, then I know I am going forward. I'm going to drive a screw in. This one has an arrow that points to the back of the drill, backwards. If I push that in, now I'm going to pull the screw out. I'm going to be turning the screw in a direction that will make it go backwards. Down here we have speeds, okay? That is on the lowest speed. 1, 2, 3. If I turn it on the highest speed, this is going to spin very quickly, and it's going to make it more of a challenge to control the screw as you are driving the screw in. So as you're beginning, you're probably going to want to spend your time on low speed. In order to take the battery out, we press this button and then it slides forward. And these batteries have a function on them where we can check to see how much battery life they have left in them by pressing this button on the front. In order to reinsert the drill battery, we just simply slide it forward until it clicks. Next, we have our standard drill, the type that you can put a regular drill bit, a screw bit, or a drill bit into. It has the same feature with this being reverse, this being forward. The battery removal works the same way. And the difference with this one is it has a light brightness on it. When I turn this on, there is a light to illuminate what it is that you're working on, and you can adjust that there. On the top, we have the speed and torque settings. So when we have it in 1, it is going to go slower, and it's going to have more torque. It's going to be stronger, just like the gears in your car. When I turn it on 2, it's going to go a whole lot faster. It's not going to have quite as much power. The top of this has a clutch. You can see it's set on 1, and it goes all the way up through to a drill sign. Okay, so this is not clutched out at all. So if I was to grab this chuck key and try to turn it, I cannot hold that, right? But if I turn this way down to 1 and I hold this and try to turn it on, it's going to click, okay? The purpose for that is sometimes you need to drive a screw and you need it when it reaches a certain amount of torque to stop spinning so that you can't drive it through the back side of something. So as I turn this up, it's to 6, it's harder to hold on to. Turn that up to 10, I can still hold it, but it's getting harder yet. Once I get that all the way up to that drill mark, it's not going to clutch out at all. It's just going to spin, okay? So those features will come into play at a later date, and we'll talk more about those at another time. And the third kind of drill that you will find in the shop is a hammer drill. This one has an adjustment on the top where you can drill or you can hammer. And the purpose of the hammer is when you're going to drill into concrete, there is a hammering action where the bit actually has a percussion which allows it to drill through the concrete. So let's talk about how to safely use this thing so that you don't hurt yourself. So let's talk about how to change the bit on these. If I've got this one, I simply push forward on the sleeve and pull that out. If I want to put it in, it'll just automatically slide right in and lock itself in place. If I'm going to use this one, this is called a keyless chuck. So on the drill press, we learned that we had to use our chuck key to spin that chuck. For this one, we can do it by hand. You can see how I spin that and it opens up. I can spin that by hand and it closes down. I can also hold the chuck and press the button and it will close down, or go in reverse while holding it and it will open up. If I'm putting a bit in, I can hold the bit and hold the chuck and run it out until it hits, and then listen to the clicking when I grab this. I've just tightened that chuck down completely so that the drill bit will not spin. You can also do that by just holding the chuck and pulling the trigger. It can do it for you as well. I can also tell you that sometimes there's just more control if you hold the bit and spin it into place, especially as you're learning how to use the equipment. When you're swapping out for a screwdriver bit, there's a couple things that you need to keep in mind. This is a hex bit, and there are 3 teeth, 3 splines coming out of the drill. It's important when you are using a screw bit that you get it into the chuck correctly. Notice how the teeth in the chuck are pinching down on the corners of that bit. As soon as I try to drive a screw, that thing's gonna pop loose. So instead, what I need to do is spin that so that the chuck comes down on the flat part of the drill, okay? Now that drill bit is secure. So let's talk about how I want you to drill a hole with a hand drill and how I want you to drive a screw. I'm gonna make sure that I'm in forward by looking at the arrow on the drill bit, so that is facing forward, so I know I'm going forward. I want to be going forward, and I'm gonna, just like with the drill press, I'm gonna make sure that if my piece is too small to hold, or if I'm not strong enough to hold this drill with one hand, I'm gonna make sure that it's clamped to the table. And once I start drilling, I'm gonna keep it in forward. I am not going to drill down and forward and then back my drill out in reverse. I stay forward the whole time. That way it's pulling the wood up and through these flutes as I go in and out with the drill. I'm gonna drive the bit forward into the wood, back it out to clear the bit and to cool the bit. See how the wood falls out of the bit as I back it out? And I empty it out. Okay. One of the common mistakes that we see people make when they're drilling with a hand drill is they don't go straight down. They don't apply force straight down. Instead, they're pushing down on the back of the handle. And this is what happens. As we get down here, they push back on the back of the drill and the bit breaks off. That is something that we want to avoid. So make sure that when you're drilling, you're applying your pressure straight down through the bit. Always make sure that you have a sacrificial piece underneath your workpiece so that you're not drilling into the tabletop, and make sure again that if your piece is too small to hold, that you've got it clamped to the table. Now let's talk about what it would look like for us to drive a screw. Many people think that there's no danger involved with this, but there is in fact quite a few ways that you can hurt yourself. Now, a common mistake is that people will put the screw on there and they'll start to push down with all the pressure that they have, and they pop off of there. I want you to look at that hole right there. If that hits you in the hand, that is gonna leave quite a cut. And so what we're gonna do is we are gonna hold the screw, the head of the screw, with our hands, with our thumb and our finger, and we're gonna place the palm of our hand against the drill so that it can rotate in our hand and we can hold that screw. We are never gonna hold this like this, because if we do and we push down and that comes off, that's gonna hit you right in the hand. We wanna avoid that. So we're gonna get our hand up out of danger, hold it up here, and we are not gonna take off in high gear, right? We've talked about, we're gonna go low gear, we're gonna go number 1, and we're gonna remember that this is a variable speed drill. If I pull the trigger just a little bit, it goes slow. If I pull it all the way, it goes very fast. So you're gonna pull it just a little bit, make it go very slow. I'm putting very little pressure down on the drill, and I'm going very slow. Now, the screw has started to bite into the wood. So now I no longer need to hold the screw to prevent it from falling over. I can take my hand off and place it up on the drill. Now I can begin to place downward pressure. And I'm still gonna go slow. If we go fast, if you're getting this, once you start spinning, you've lost control. You need to stop, reseat the drill into the screw, and go nice and slow. The slower you go, the less chance you're gonna have of stripping out the screw or damaging something. So once again, we're gonna start slow. Fingers up out of the way, never down here. Once it begins to bite and it's in there, we get our hand completely out of the way. We drive that slowly down into the wood.